In this problem, we are given information about the prices of smartphones, and we are also told that the population standard deviation is sigma equals 82. And this is very important for this problem. We're going to be asked to find a 95% confidence interval and to know what type of interval to use in your calculator. You need to know if we know sigma or not. And in this case, obviously we do, because we have the symbol for sigma right there. So for this problem, what we're going to do is we're going to use z interval. And the way I tell the difference between z interval and t interval is because I know sigma. If it just says standard deviation, the words standard deviation, but it doesn't say population standard deviation, you can't assume that we're talking about sigma. In this case, we're using this, they give you this symbol for sigma, so we know that this is z interval. And that's what we use when we know the population standard deviation. All right, so now what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take this data and I'm going to put it in my graphing calculator. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so now here's the screen where I've entered the data into my calculator, and I get to this screen by clicking on Stat and then choosing Edit, which is the first thing that you see. So you can just go ahead, this is number 1, and you can just go ahead and press Enter or Return, what is it, Enter, in order to choose that. And that'll take you to this screen. Make sure that your first data value is in the first slot here. Sometimes you already have data in. Make sure you go up to the tippy top and clear the list before you start typing in data, because that can mess you up and then you have no idea why you're not getting the right answer. It's because there's a whole bunch of data there. Another way for me to tell that I'm doing the right thing here is that you can see down here at the bottom, once I entered my data, I pressed Enter after the 299, which is the last value. So I wound up in the next space, which is the 11th space in the list. And if you look at the data, there's only 10 values. So that's the right number of values, so we're good to go. So it's good to just be in the habit of checking for that, because you don't want to just be all confused and not know why you're getting the wrong answer. It has nothing to do with math or your technique. It's just because you didn't see that there was data up at the top. Sometimes you don't see it when you first click in there. Okay, so now let's say we're done with entering the data. So then I can press Second and Mode in order to exit to my regular screen. And you probably know that already, but it doesn't hurt to repeat. Okay, so now I'm ready to actually conduct my test. And that's when I press Stat again and I go over to the Tests menu. So I can just press my right arrow twice or the left arrow one time. That'll just take you backwards over to here. And notice that I'm choosing number 7, Z interval, because we know sigma. So press Enter there, and we go on to the next screen, which is this one. Here's where we're entering the information from the problem. The big thing here is to know, are we doing an interval using the normal distribution or an interval using the t-distribution? And that all depends, as I said before, on sigma. Do we know sigma? Then we go z interval. If we don't know sigma, t interval. Because once you make this decision, we're done with the work. It's just a matter of typing a few things in and tra-la-la, and we're going to have our answer. So now I am in z interval. I've entered all the information for this problem. So my input is data, because I have data in my list. If we were just given information in the problem that we were ready to type in here, that would be stats. But we're using data in this problem. We were told that sigma is 82. There we go. My list is L1. You want to make sure that that matches up. Frequency is 1. Try to just bypass this entirely. You don't want to stop on there. If you accidentally hit something here, then what will happen is the calculator thinks that you want to type in letters rather than numbers, and so it will automatically put the alpha lock on, and it's a little tricky to get that back to being a 1. So try to just bypass that. You're not going to need to change it from 1, so just let it stay there. And then your confidence level is 95%. You can either write in 95 or you can put in 0.95, and this or this calculator reads it the same way. So it's kind of weird. It's two different numbers, really, but calculator knows you mean 95% either way. And then you go to calculate and hit enter. So now the calculator is giving us our answer. And so here we have our confidence interval. Now because we put in data, this actually might be interesting to us. Here's the mean, that's our point estimate, 253.2. So that's our best guess for the population mean. That doesn't mean that that is the population mean, but it's our best guess based on this single data set, which is a very small data set. And then we have SX. Notice that this is not sigma, because anytime we're working with data, and we have to have data in order to, from a sample, in order to find a confidence interval, there's always going to be S. However, if they tell you sigma, then we're using sigma in the problem, and that's why we're using Z interval. If we don't have sigma, then we need to know S. Kind of covered that up a lot. We need to know this S because we're going to use that in place of sigma, and because we're using it in place of sigma, we have to use the T distribution, which adjusts for the fact that our sample standard deviation is not as reflective of the entire population as the population standard deviation would be. So there we go, and this is really our answer. So it's 202.4. The problem asked us to round to 1 decimal place, so 202.4, comma 304.0, and that's my final answer for that problem. On the exam, I'll always just, for confidence intervals, I just ask you to give as many decimal places as the calculator gives you, because it's never that many places anyway, so you might as well just give the information that you have. So that is our final answer. That's how you do that problem.